Let's start with the application that we're going to build. This is simple industrial IoT application, something you would deploy in a restaurant or a cafeteria. So here we configure some sensors which are measuring either the ambient temperature or the temperature inside the freezer. And these sensors are linked through various technologies through an MQTT to our message queue bus, from where we receive the messages and we monitor them and process them. Using that data, we generate some dashboards which allow us to see what's going on in the facility. We define some some triggers, some alarms, and events, basically to either alert people or maybe automatically take some action, trigger some circuit breaker or things like that. We also have workflow. For example, when we notice that there is a sensor which is either reporting low battery or maybe showing unusual readings, we can initiate some sort of a service request on that. So let's start by looking at the dashboard, which is kind of the main feature of the application, because somebody can just use this one single console and you can create multiple such consoles to see what's going on. You can put all your widgets that you want on this. For example, here we are monitoring the temperature of the freezer. Here we can select the granularity of the data, last hour, last day, last week, last month, etc. We could be similarly doing it for an appliance or for an area or for a specific individual sensor, for example, this one. Here we can select a sensor and we can get the current status, current reading, current status, and the last few maximum, minimum readings. Here we have a little summary of the sensors that we have installed. We can analyze it by location, by protocol, or what we are measuring, etc. We can put these alarms as well on this. We have a little time sense alert widget here. So there are a few such widgets. You can create your dashboard as per your requirement, and you can use this. So this dashboard is user configurable. You could just come here, create a new dashboard, add widgets to this, same widgets that we saw in the dashboard. You can resize and align all your widgets the way you want. You can make it short and add more widgets or whatever your requirement is. These widgets are a part of the application, and you can add new widgets anytime. You can double click and select the properties of the widget. For example, how frequently it should be refreshed. If there are any filters, you could assign those filters, and then you can just save it. You can also control who all can use this dashboard. So this is the crux of the application that we're looking at. Let me also show you some of the features that we have. For example, let's say we are looking at the sensor status. Because we are capturing it, we can see the status of all of the sensors here. We can, for example, look at the aggregated data, which is the data we are aggregating on a daily basis, right? So instead of saving every reading, we just kind of summarize it over a period and then save it. We, in terms of features of the application, we have a search option, right? You can use the search box and search. This is the listing you get. In the listing, we have sort of a meta property box here. Some of the properties which are internally maintained, like who's the owner, what's the classification, who made the last update, and when. These data items you can normally hide, but in case you're doing some investigation, you can go back and look at them. To edit, just simply click here and edit. From here, we also have service log. So every time you perform a service on a sensor, you can create a little log entry here. You can, for example, just save when you did, what type of service it was, etc. Capture some details and save it. We can control the access to this item, which is the sensor. And here, it's a fairly granular level of control. What you get is that you assign owner to the item and you assign a group owner. I'll show you how the groups are managed in a minute. And for each class of user, you can specify the access, what they get, read, write, delete level of access. From here, we can initiate a workflow. For example, if I want to trigger a service, I can assign it to some user, give it some initial parameters, how many hours it's going to take, by when it should get completed, etc. And then just I can save it. Sorry. And I can just save it. Now then, at any point, I can see the workflow status, which is what all is currently assigned, how much time has been spent, where it is, and I can look at the workflow history, which is what are the various events that happened on that workflow. So from here, I can control and manage all this. I can, for example, switch off the service log. We also have a little bit of alert. Every time some event happens which we think is worthy of an alert, we issue an alert. Let's take a look at one of the triggers, for example. So here we can define a trigger. Right now we don't have any triggers, but the way it works is you can take some sensors which you want to monitor, and you can drop them into this box here to define which sensors you want to monitor. You can also link triggers. So if there's a trigger which gets activated and you want this to be followed up with something else, you can, if there's an input condition, you can put that here. You can have time selection, days of the week when this trigger should be active. And then you define from this list how many minimum sensors should violate a condition for this trigger to be active. For example, I can say if any one of them breaches upper bound or breaches lower bound, this trigger should fire, and by how much amount, etc. A lot of settings here. Here I can raise an alarm, I can notify some user, etc. So this is a very comprehensive IoT application, but still I would call it a simple application because it's doing kind of the essential functions only, although it's usable. It's a usable application. It's not just a toy or a demo application. So I hope you kind of got a crux of the features of the application that we are building. And in the next few episodes, I'm going to go back and start building this application using the ZOAPIIO, the wizard and other tools that are available. And so to give you a little sort of a spoiler, it's going to take us, this application can be built using ZOAPIIO in about roughly 10 days of effort, which I would say is fairly, it's a really, really a powerful product, and to build an application like this, you can do it very quickly. So we'll be doing this over the next 2 or 3 episodes, where I will be building this in parts. So I'll see you in the next episode.